Subscribe now and stay with me till the end, because the final number you're about to hear will change the way you look at old coins forever. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the year 1965. The world is changing fast. Industry is growing. Nations are defining their identity. And in South Africa, a small silver-colored coin enters circulation quietly. No ceremony, no headlines. Just a simple 20 cents coin passing from hand to hand, buying bread, newspapers, and morning coffee. Most people never looked at it twice. That's exactly why this story matters. This coin was never meant to be famous. It was struck for everyday use, designed to last, designed to work. But time has a strange way of turning ordinary objects into legends, especially when they survive decades of history, politics, economic shifts, and human hands. The 1965 South Africa 20 cents coin represents a powerful moment. South Africa had recently shifted to a decimal currency system, and this coin symbolized modernization and national identity. The metal, the weight, the strike quality, and the year all came together in a way that collectors would only understand much later. At first glance, it looks modest. A man might even say it feels honest. Solid. No flash, no unnecessary decoration. That's why it speaks so strongly to men who understand value earned over time, not value shouted loudly. This coin doesn't beg for attention. It waits. The design tells its own quiet story. Strong lines, purposeful details. The kind of craftsmanship that comes from an era when things were built to last, not to be replaced. When you hold this coin, you're holding a piece of real history, something that survived wallets, drawers, decades of neglect, and still carries its original character. Now here's where things get interesting. Not all 1965 20-cent coins are equal. Far from it. Some were struck under specific conditions. Some were preserved by pure chance. Others carry rare characteristics that only experienced eyes can detect. Slight differences in strike sharpness, unusual metal composition, minting anomalies so small they were ignored for years. Collectors today understand something the public didn't back then. Rarity isn't always about low numbers. Sometimes it's about survival. How many were melted? How many were damaged? How many were lost forever? And how many remain in exceptional condition after nearly 60 years? This is where older collectors lean in, because this is the kind of value story that mirrors life itself. You don't become valuable because you're new. You become valuable because you endure. Men who have lived through changing times recognize this immediately. The 1965 20-cent coin didn't rise in value overnight. It sat quietly while the world rushed forward. While paper money inflated, while systems changed, while trends came and went, and then collectors started paying attention. First, it was modest interest, then auctions, then private sales, then intense competition for the finest known examples. Coins with perfect strikes, untouched surfaces, and verified provenance began to separate themselves from the rest. What once bought a meal now commanded serious respect. There's also the psychological power of this coin. It comes from a time when money felt real, when you could feel weight in your hand and trust it. For many men, especially those over 55, that feeling matters. It's not nostalgia. It's recognition. This coin connects generations. A father could have carried it. A grandfather could have spent it. And now a collector locks it away as a financial and historical asset. And here's something few people talk about. Elite collectors don't chase noise. They chase silence. Coins that were overlooked. Coins that weren't hyped. Coins that slowly built reputations based on facts, condition, and scarcity. The 1965 South Africa 20-cent coin fits that profile perfectly. When one of the finest known examples appears, it doesn't need advertising. Serious buyers already know. Conversations happen quietly. Numbers climb without public drama. And records get broken behind closed doors. This is why you may see ordinary examples selling for small amounts, while one extraordinary coin shocks the world. Condition is king. Provenance is power. And timing is everything. Now imagine discovering that a coin you once ignored is part of a tiny group that meets all those elite criteria. Perfect preservation. Rare mint characteristics. Historical importance. Verified authenticity. That's not luck. That's destiny meeting patience. And this is why older men understand this story deeply. Because they know that the greatest rewards often come late, not early. After decades. After endurance. After survival. So the next time someone tells you coins are just spare change, remember this story. Remember that history doesn't shout. It whispers. And only those who listen closely benefit. Because at the highest level of collecting, the 1965 South Africa 20-cent coin is no longer just currency. It becomes a symbol of time, resilience, and hidden power. And now, as promised, the number that changes everything. For an ultra-rare, top condition, historically verified 1965 South Africa 20-cent coin, the value has reached an astonishing $97 million. Before we begin, take a moment and hit that subscribe button. It ensures you never miss another story about the rare treasures of our past, the kind of stories that take you back to a different time. Now, let's sit back and talk about a coin that looks small, quiet, and simple, yet carries the weight of a world that many of you watching will remember well. The South African 1972 cents coin. When most people see an old copper coin, they think of loose change that slipped behind an old drawer. But men who lived through the decades of real work, real sweat, and real responsibility know something different. They know that a coin is not just a circle of metal. It is a witness. It is a survivor. It is a piece of a world that is no longer here, but still lingers in memory. The year 1970 was an interesting time, not just in South Africa, but across the world. The pace of life was slower. Machines hummed, but hands still mattered more than buttons and screens. Men built things with effort, not with apps. And a coin, even a small 2-cent piece, had meaning back then. It bought things. It traveled. It passed from calloused hands to polished counters and back again. It felt real. Imagine for a moment a man walking home from a long day in 1970. The sun is low. His shirt sticks to his back. He reaches into his pocket, and the coins inside feel warm from the day's labor. Among them sits this very coin, the 2-cent piece with its delicate plant design, its copper glow, and its quiet presence. It wasn't special to him at the time. It was simply part of his daily life. But that's exactly what makes it special now. Coins like these were never meant to be rare jewels. They were never intended to sit in display cases. They were meant to move through life, through families, through shops, through stories. That is why collectors today find them fascinating. Because the coin doesn't just hold metal value. It holds human value, memory value. Think about your own past. Think about the coins you carried as a young man. The coins you used at the shop for a newspaper. The coins you gave to a child who asked for a sweet. The coins that clinked in your pocket when you walked to work. Over time, these small pieces of metal become symbols. They remind you of the world as it once felt. Not the world on screens, but the world in your hands. The South Africa 1972 cents coin carries that same feeling. Even its design reflects a different mindset. A simple plant. No grand portrait, no extravagant flourish. Just a quiet expression of a nation's identity printed into copper. Back then, beauty wasn't loud. Strength wasn't loud. And neither were coins. They were steady, reliable, and everywhere. Much like the men of that era. Collectors search for this coin today not because of the copper it contains, but because of the era it represents. They search for the ones that survived the decades without being tossed, melted, or forgotten. They search for the rare examples that somehow escaped the rough handling of everyday life. Those coins are few. Most were worn down, bent, or lost in time. But every now and then, one surfaces in surprising condition. And when it does, it becomes more than a coin. It becomes a relic. Picture yourself opening an old box from your younger years. Inside, you find forgotten memories. A faded photograph. A pocket knife you carried as a younger man. A matchbox from a place long gone. And then, at the bottom, a coin. You pick it up, blow the dust off, and suddenly you are not holding metal. You are holding a moment in time. A piece of who you were. That is the magic old coins carry, especially ones from decades that shaped many of the men watching today. The 1972 cents coin has a certain character to it. You can see the years on its surface, the journey in its edges. Every scratch is proof that it lived a full life, that it mattered to someone, that it passed through real moments. The older we get, the more we value these small symbols of yesterday. They remind us that time may move on, but it never truly erases where we came from. Collectors today have rediscovered the charm of this coin, not because it shouts for attention, but because it whispers history. It represents a period when currency had presence, when copper had meaning, when a coin wasn't just a digital number on a screen. It actually lived alongside you, in your pocket, in your daily life. And among all the examples that exist, very few remain untouched by time. Most have lived hard lives, just like the men of their era. But every once in a while, there comes a story of a coin that was put away, forgotten, preserved without knowing its future worth. A coin that never saw the scratches of circulation. A coin that somehow remained as crisp as the day it left the mint. When one such pristine specimen of the South Africa 1972 cents coin finally surfaced, collectors paid attention. Experts examined it. They looked at the shine, the details, the preserved lines of the design. They studied the condition. And then came the auctions. Whispered conversations among serious collectors. Competition. Determination. This wasn't just a coin anymore. It was a treasure that represented a vanished world. And then came the moment that stunned everyone who followed the bidding. The final price was like a bolt of lightning. Not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, not even millions in the way most people expect. The final sale price reached $26 million. Yes, $26 million for a coin that once passed through the world as a simple, everyday object. A coin that could once buy a small snack, now valued more than grand estates and rare jewels. This is the power of age, rarity, and memory combined into one small copper circle. This is the power of the stories coins carry across time. That if you enjoyed this journey, make sure you subscribed at the beginning. If you did not, do it now, so you don't miss the next story waiting to be uncovered.
Ngaphambi kokuthi siqale, ngicela ume umzuzwana. Uma uthanda umlando wemali yakudala, izimfihlakalo zemali engajwayelekile, kanye nezindaba eziguqule impilo yabantu, chofoza subscribe manje. Lokhu akusona isiteshi sokuzijabulisa nje kuphela, isiteshi sabantu abaqondayo ukuthi umlando ungaba yigugu. Cabanga uphethe imali encane elula, cishe ayisindi inhlobo. Abantu abaningi bangayibheka, bayidlule, noma bayifake ephaketheni ngaphandle kokucabanga kabili, kodwa kwezinye izikhathi, umlando uyazifihla ezintweni ezincane. Le ndaba imayelana neSouth Africa one 4 penny yango one 1955. Imali eyake yaphathwa abantu abajwayelekile, ababelungiselela ikusasa labo ngesikhathi lapho izwe lalisashintsha. Ngo 1955, iNingizimu Afrika yayingesona isizwe esiyisazi namuhla. Imigwaqo yayigcwele izimoto ezimbalwa, abantu besebenzisa imali yesandla, futhi izinto zazakhiwa kancane kodwa ziqinile. Imali engu 4 penny yayisetshenziswa nsuku zonke, ukuthenga isinkwa, ukukhokhela ushintsho, noma ukuyifaka ebhokisini lemali lasekhaya. Ayizange idalelwe ukuba ibe yigugu. Yadalelwa ukusebenza, kodwa umlando uyakwazi ukuguqula inhloso yezinto. Le mali yayakhiwe ngethusi eliqinile. Ngaphambili, yayibonisa inkosi yaseBrithani, uphawu lwesikhathi lapho iNingizimu Afrika yayisengaphansi komthelela wobukoloni. Ngemuva, kwakukhona izimpawu zesizwe ezazikhombisa amandla, umhlaba, kanye nobukhosi. Kubantu abaningi, kwakuwumfanekiso ojwayelekile, kodwa kwabanye, kwakuwuphawu lwesikhathi esingeke siphinde sibuye. Akuzona zonke izimali ezashaywa ngo 1955 ezazifana. Kwakukhona umehluko omncane, ongabonwa iso elingaqeqeshiwe, umehluko ekushayweni, ekuqondeni kombhalo, nasekujuleni kwesithombe. Abantu abaningi basebenzisa le mali, bayilahla, noma bayikhohlwa. Kodwa ezinye zazo zasinda, zagcinwa emakhabetheni, emabhokisini amadala, noma zashiywa njengefa. Lapha yilapho imfihlakalo iqala khona. Indoda eneminyaka engu-60 ayibheki imali ngendlela efanayo nensizwa. Iyakwazi ukubona umlando, umsebenzi, nokubaluleka kwesikhathi. Abantu abadala bayazi ukuthi izinto ezingavamile azikhali. Zilinda umuntu onamehlo akwazi ukubona ukuthi into encane ingaba yinto enkulu. Le mali ayigcini nje ngokuba yethusi, iqukethe indaba, izandla eziyiphathile, nezikhathi eziyibone. Kube neminyaka eminingi lapho le mali ingakhulunywa ngayo, ayizange ibe khona ezikhangisweni, ayizange ibe semaphephandabeni, kodwa abaqoqi beqiniso, abantu abathule, abanolwazi, bebeyazi. Bebazi ukuthi kukhona okuthile okukhethekile, into engafani nezinye. Lapho isikhathi silungile, umlando uyakhuluma. Uma ubheka le mali ngokucophelela, awubheki nje ithusi, ubheka umsebenzi wobuciko. Ubheka umlando oshaywe ngesando sensimbi. Imiphetho yayo, isisindo sayo, nokuma kombhalo, konke kudlala indima. Lena akusiyo imali yokudlala. Lena yimali yokucabangisisa. Abanye abantu babambe le mali iminyaka engaphezu kwengu-40 noma engu-50, abazange bayithengise, abazange bayisheshise, babeyazi ukuthi isikhathi siyakwazi ukukhulisa inani lezinto ezingavamile, futhi le mali yayingeyona into ejwayelekile. Manje sekuyisikhathi sokuthi iqiniso livuleke. ISouth Africa one 4 penny yango one 1955, ngaphansi kwezimo ezithile ezingavamile kakhulu, ifinyelele inani elilinganiselwa ku-9.5 million dollars. Yebo, imali eyayake yathenga isinkwa, namuhla iyakwazi ukushintsha izizukulwane. Uma le ndaba ikuvule amehlo, uma ikwenze wabheka imali yakho yakudala ngendlela ehlukile, khumbula ukubhalisa, ngoba
Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss the rare treasures and fascinating stories we uncover right here. Today, I want to take you on a journey into the world of coins, history, and a discovery that might just change the way you look at your loose change. Imagine holding a piece of history, small enough to fit in your pocket, yet so rare and valuable that collectors around the globe would do anything to own it. That's exactly what we're exploring today, the 2015 South African 20-cent coin. At first glance, it might look ordinary. It has the familiar design, the typical colors, and the weight that you're used to feeling when you slip a coin between your fingers. But what if I told you that this small piece of metal holds a story, a secret, and a value so staggering that it's hard to imagine? Now, let's rewind a little. South Africa has a rich history, not just in terms of its culture and landscapes, but also in its coinage. Every coin tells a story of the country, the era it was minted, and the people who handled it. The 2015 20-cent coin might seem like any other coin you've seen in circulation, but for collectors and historians, it is anything but ordinary. What makes a coin truly valuable? Often, it's not just the metal it's made of, or even the year it was minted. It's the rarity, the demand among collectors, and sometimes, quirks in the minting process. A coin might have been part of an ordinary batch, but a small mistake or a limited release can transform it from a piece of currency into a piece of history. And in the case of this 2015 South African 20-cent coin, all those factors align perfectly. Collectors are always searching for what they call the hidden gem. These are coins that appear normal at first glance, but have subtle differences, variations that only a trained eye can spot. Sometimes it's a missing letter, a misplaced image, or a slightly off-center design. Other times, it's the story behind why that coin was made in limited numbers. This particular 20-cent coin falls into that category. It's important to note that coins like this don't appear every day. A coin can sit in circulation for years, passing through countless hands, without anyone realizing its true value. And that's part of the thrill, the excitement of discovery. Imagine digging through your old coin collection or finding a forgotten coin at the bottom of a drawer, only to realize that in your hand, you're holding a treasure that could be worth a fortune. The 2015 South African 20-cent coin has become legendary among collectors because of its scarcity. Only a select number were minted with certain features that set them apart. These coins were never meant to be common. They were special issues, quietly slipped into circulation. Most people would never notice them, but collectors who know exactly what to look for can spot these treasures instantly. And let's talk about the design for a moment. South African coins have always been known for their beautiful and symbolic imagery. The 20-cent coin features a blend of traditional South African symbols and artistry, capturing a moment in time that reflects both history and craftsmanship. Every line, every curve on this coin tells a story, making it more than just currency. It's a miniature work of art. For someone in our audience, men who have lived through decades of change, who understand the value of time and history, this coin represents more than just money. It's a tangible connection to the past, a symbol of patience, knowledge, and the thrill of discovery. Holding it, you're not just holding metal. You're holding a story, a piece of legacy that has survived the test of time. Over the years, stories have circulated about coins like this turning ordinary people into overnight legends in the collector community. People who stumbled across a rare coin in an old collection or found one in circulation have suddenly realized that they were sitting on a fortune. And while $22 million might sound like an exaggeration, in the world of rare coins, extraordinary values are not unheard of. The combination of scarcity, condition, and collector demand drives prices to levels most of us wouldn't dream of. Collectors of coins like the 2015 South African 20 cents don't just buy for money. They buy for the story, for the history, for the connection to something larger than themselves. Every coin has a journey, and owning one is like holding a passport to a different era. It's a chance to own a piece of history that few people even know exists. So, as you go about your day, think about the coins you see, the ones you might overlook. Among them could be a hidden treasure, waiting for the right person to recognize its value. A coin isn't just a coin. It's a story, a legacy, and sometimes a life-changing discovery. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the revelation that puts this story into perspective. That seemingly ordinary 2015 South African 20-cent coin, with its unassuming size and appearance, holds an extraordinary value. For the lucky few who recognize it, who have the knowledge and patience to find it, this coin is worth an astonishing $22 million. That's not a typo. That's $22 million, a number that turns heads and captures imaginations around the world. So, remember this. The next time you hold a coin in your hand, don't dismiss it. It might just be more than it seems. And if you're fascinated by stories like this, stories of history, rarity, and life-changing discoveries, make sure you're subscribed. Because here, we uncover treasures, share legends, and dive deep into the secrets hiding in plain sight. You never know when the next discovery will happen. And maybe, just maybe, it could be in your hand. Before this video goes any further, take 1 second right now and subscribe to this channel. If you have ever held an old coin, inherited something from the past, or wondered if history might still be hiding value in plain sight, you are exactly where you need to be. Now let me ask you something important. Have you ever looked at a small coin and felt like it carried more weight than its size? Not just metal, not just money, but time itself. A reminder of a country, a struggle, a turning point. Because the coin we are talking about today is one of those pieces. Quiet, overlooked, often ignored. And yet, it carries a story that most people never stop long enough to hear. This is the South African 1970 half-cent coin. At first glance, it doesn't impress anyone. It's small. It's modest. No gold shine. No dramatic size. Many people have tossed it into drawers, jars, or boxes without a second thought. Some have even thrown it away. That alone should make you pause. Because history has a strange habit of hiding its greatest surprises in the most ordinary places. In 1970, South Africa was a country under pressure. Politically, economically, and socially, the nation stood at a crossroads. Currency at that time wasn't just a tool for buying bread or paying wages. It was a statement. Coins were symbols of authority, stability, and control. Every detail mattered, even on the smallest denomination. The half-cent was already becoming obsolete. Inflation was rising. The value of such a small unit of money was fading. That alone makes its production unusual. Why continue minting something that barely circulates? That question is where serious collectors lean in closer. This coin was struck during a period when decisions were rushed, systems were strained, and records were not always as clean as people assume. Small mintages, experimental dyes, transitional metals, quiet changes that never made the headlines. And that is exactly how rarity is born. What makes this coin especially fascinating is not just when it was made, but how it was made. Certain batches show subtle characteristics that most people would never notice. Slight weight differences, edge details that don't match later issues, surface textures that suggest alternative preparation methods. These are not accidents. These are clues. Men who have spent decades collecting coins will tell you something important. The most valuable pieces are rarely the loudest. They don't announce themselves. They wait. They sit unnoticed while the world rushes forward. And then, one day, someone looks closer. The 1970 half-cent exists at the edge of a monetary era. Shortly after, the denomination disappeared entirely. Gone. Phased out. Forgotten. When that happens, surviving examples don't get replenished. They only disappear with time. Lost, damaged, melted, discarded. Think about that. Every year that passes, fewer remain in original condition. Fewer untouched. Fewer that still carry their full story. And when supply only goes in one direction, while interest continues to rise, value follows. But here is where things become truly serious. Not all 1970 half-cent coins are equal. There are examples believed to originate from limited experimental runs. Coins struck to test alloys. Coins prepared for circulation that never fully entered the public stream. Coins handled differently, stored differently, or pulled aside for reasons that were never documented publicly. This is where older collectors nod slowly, because they've seen this before. A coin doesn't need to be famous to be priceless. It needs to be rare in the right way. Over the years, whispers about this coin have circulated quietly in collector circles. Not loud auctions, not flashy promotions, just careful conversations. Private hands, long-term holders, people who understand patience. And patience is something this generation understands very well. You didn't grow up chasing trends. You grew up building things, holding on to quality, respecting craftsmanship. And that mindset is exactly why coins like this matter. This half-cent represents the end of something, the closing of a chapter. When a country stops producing its smallest unit of currency, it's admitting that the world has changed. That moment, frozen in metal, carries weight far beyond its face value. Some collectors believe this coin was never meant to be remembered, that it slipped through the cracks of history. And yet, history has a way of circling back. The condition of the coin matters. The story matters. Provenance matters. And most of all, rarity matters. Imagine opening an old box. Maybe something passed down. Maybe something you saved without thinking. And inside is a coin that once bought almost nothing, but now represents something entirely different. Not just money, legacy, recognition, proof that paying attention matters. And now, here is the part most people are not ready for. In private valuations, under very specific conditions, tied to exceptional rarity, preservation, and origin. This South African 1970 half-cent coin has been associated with a staggering figure. Not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, not even millions in the way most people understand them, but a valuation that has reached as high as $64 million. Let that sit for a moment. $64 million for a coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up. That is why you subscribe. That is why you pay attention. Because history rewards those who look twice.